Trade reports escalating. We have a writer that reveals a new target for the Rams defense that makes their unit unstoppable for this upcoming season. And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rams Digest. I am your host, Joshua Finehirsh. Now, before we get into today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you do not miss any new daily Rams Digest videos coming at you. And we are so close to 3,300 subscribers, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so that we hit 4,000 by the goal I set last video at the end of the month. And now on to our topic for today's video. We have the Rams having a potential new trade target on the defensive side of the ball. And no, it is not in the secondary, which might shock you all. And the Rams have a unit that was not really addressed in the draft, to really everybody's surprise, until the 5th round. And that is the off-ball linebacker position, which we have the trade target for coming up for you right now. And you know, there's a few things going on right now with the Rams. They are a true NFC contender. However, they didn't really address the outside linebacker position until bringing in Chris Paul Jr. out of Mississippi in the 5th round. And our story today is brought to you by the Turf Showtimes. However, there are some potential targets that are coming out at the linebacker position, something that both Josh and I thought the Rams could have used pick 26 on in the 1st round, taking my best pure linebacker in the draft in Jihad Campbell. However, the Rams decided to trade back and not really address that position, whether it was through the draft or the offseason, as there were elite free agents available like a Dre Greenlaw that the Rams decided not to pursue. However, in his May 6th column, Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox has named Cincinnati Bengals linebacker Jermaine Pratt as a key option here for the Rams as a veteran presence. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Jermaine Pratt on the Bengals, he was the player that is known for pushing Patrick Mahomes out of bounds on that play in the 2023 AFC Championship game during the 2022 season. However, Pratt is a very, very solid linebacker, so it is unfortunate that that is really the play that he is known for. And before we get any further, comment down below right now, do you believe the Rams need to make a trade or addition for someone else on the defensive end in the linebacker room, whether it's Jermaine Pratt or if it's someone else? Leave a name down below, because I have not seen at this point in the offseason many linebackers, that have the talent to start right away and can fit into a system as well as Pratt does. And going into Christopher Knox's main example here on Jermaine Pratt, it said the Rams traded out of the 1st round with 2 tight ends in mind. Excuse me, that is actually the wrong quote. The Los Angeles Rams may also want to kick the tires on Pratt. They entered the offseason needing to upgrade their defensive back 7, but they didn't draft an off-ball linebacker before taking Mississippi's Chris Paul Jr. in the 5th round. And that is from Christopher Knox, and he's absolutely right. This is where they need an upgrade. They need to be able to stop the run, and Pratt seems to be like a good fit for them to do that over there. And Cincinnati has really positioned itself on the offensive end by paying T. Higgins all that money, by paying Jamar Chase, way more deservedly so, all of that money. And back on February 12th, Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero both reported that Pratt had actually requested a trade out of Cincinnati. And the report made it clear that the Bengals were going to focus more on the offense. Pratt has played back-to-back full, healthy regular seasons, which is key. So he is durable, he can fill in, and he's not somebody who gets hurt, because we know the Rams have had some injury issues on the defensive and offensive, line/linebacker sides of the ball there. Pratt as well, he had 143 combined tackles in 2024, a career high, which is great for trade value, him coming off of a career high in tackles as well in 2024. And also leave a comment right now down below what you think this potential trade could be, as nothing has been set in stone just yet. I believe that Jermaine Pratt, give up a 4th rounder. You don't need to give up, a high value pick, a first 3-round pick for Pratt. Again, it's not like you're trading for a Fred Warner or a Dre Greenlaw, where those could even be 1st-round pick trades. For Pratt, you're getting a nice, solid linebacker. And something else he's very known for, on a positive note, is he got the game-winning interception on Derek Carr in the 2022 wildcard game, the year that the Bengals lost to the Rams in the Super Bowl, to win that game and move them on to play the Titans that year, where they also ended up winning that game. Obviously, Pratt, a known playoff player as well, been in playoff games, so that's also good for the Rams, as that linebacking core does not have too much experience, in playoff games for right now at the time being. Pratt could also be on the move, as ESPN's Jeremy Fowler said actually today that the linebacker could be cut, as a trade has not yet materialized with any team. And that's really important to know, that if he's cut, the Bengals would take on most of that, cut salaries. I'm sure there's something in his contract about that. And for the Rams, that's amazing news. You can maybe add Pratt on a 1-year deal worth $3 million. You don't need to overpay for him, as he'd be going to a team that has a chance to make the Super Bowl. And this is really important to know on the bottom here. The Rams haven't really had a star-ish linebacker since Ernest Jones was, as this article says, foolishly traded ahead of last season. And I agree. When the Ernest Jones trade happened, I wasn't for paying him, the $20 million that he was kind of hoping for, but I don't think trading him was the best move, especially I believe they only got a 5th-round pick in that trade for Ernest Jones, which, hasn't really turned out to be a good trade. I do wonder, what if Ernest Jones was on the team this past year when they played the Eagles? Who knows what would have happened, having a better defender out there right now. And then it's very, tough to ride out the storm with this unit. With someone, like Chris Paul Jr. is a bit of a shaky strategy. He's kind of being touted by this article to really lead this unit. I don't believe he'll be leading the unit as a rookie. As much as I like the pick in the 5th round, I don't think any rookie linebacker should be leading a defensive unit. Even rookie Roquan Smith wasn't leading the defensive unit in Chicago, although that defense was stacked from top to bottom that year, so bit of a different story there. But obviously, they need time to develop. Expecting a rookie, a 5th rounder, no matter how good, to carry the unit, it's a bit too much to put on his shoulders right there, and that's something that I totally agree with as well. And now we get into, some depth chart issues with the Rams at linebacker as well, going on here. They have Jared Verse listed as a linebacker. He's more of an edge rusher. He's more of a pass rushing on-ball linebacker, as his article stated. Same thing with Byron Young. He's more so of a rushing type of linebacker. Chris Paul Jr. more off-ball. Nate Landman can do a little bit of everything. Same thing with Omar Speights. Troy Reader's been in the system before to mixed, results there. And Josiah Stewart as well, their draft pick in the 3rd round, came out more of as an edge rusher, a bit of a tweener prospect as well. Tweener, I know, is more of a basketball term, but it does work in this sense for the football side of things as well. For him, is he going to be more of an edge rusher, or can he turn into the outside, off-ball linebacker? Because that is one of the Rams' biggest needs outside of the secondary, is that potentially a veteran linebacker to help, not really Jared Verse, but to help really, or Byron Young, but to help everyone else, especially Chris Paul Jr., as he looks to potentially be a star in this league. And now we have to get into some PFF grades on these guys. We're going to start off with Jermaine Pratt. Right here, he has a 60.6 overall grade, so pretty average. Pass rush and coverage grades are a little lower, especially the coverage grade is a bit lower than you'd want at 53.4. But the run defense grade at 70.1 is exactly what the Rams are looking for from a veteran addition at the linebacker position. They need to stop the run. They had a bottom 10 run defense last year, which is so important in today's game, where on their schedule, as I talked about in my last video, they have to go against Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. You got Sonic and Knuckles out in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. On the Bucks, Bucky Irving had a nice rookie season. Nice for my fantasy team last year as well as a waiver wire pickup. That's besides the point. Going in your own division, James Conner, as much as I always thought he was a little bit, overrated, he's a decent running back. He's a good starting running back. Kenneth Walker, if he's healthy, is really good. Christian McCaffrey, hopefully is healthy for the sake of the NFL, because the NFL is always better when the best players are healthy. And when Christian McCaffrey's right, he's absolutely amazing. And those are tough running backs that the Rams need to face this year. Again, solo tackles, 107. He got 30 assists, 0 pressures, which again is okay. The Rams have a really nice young pass rush. And 2 forced fumbles. That's also really key, having those forced fumbles, being able to get the ball out of people's hands easily. And looking at these grades, he is a good fit. Now let's compare him to, in my opinion, the best linebacker on the Rams, and Omar Speights, who I think is extremely, undervalued in the grand scheme of the NFL. Right here, Speights with a bit of a higher grade, actually at 66.8. That coverage grade being a bit higher in the mid-50s instead of the low 50s. Again, 51.7% pass rush grade, not really too important. 78.3% run defense grade. That is quite good for Omar Speights, an undrafted rookie. Speights is a bit smaller at that linebacker position at 6'1", 228. Pratt, again, with his size at 6'3", 250, is also somebody who can really come in with his size to make an impact as well. Speights didn't have as many snaps last year because he didn't really play till later in the season. Only around 300 snaps, which is fine. And I've been hearing things, multiple reports have said that Speights is going to be potentially the signal caller of the defense, which I kind of agree with because he's really the most experienced linebacker in the system. Obviously, you got a guy like Nate Landman, who I believe will have a nice impact on the team as well, but not quite ready yet with it being the first year in this system for him to really lead the defense and call out signals and plays. Now we have another story to talk about today that was actually a little bit shocking, and it goes back to the NFL draft and what the Rams decided to do with their first-round pick, as it shocked me reading this new report from our friend Cam DeSilva at the Rams Wire. And, kind of going into that, after getting an offer they really couldn't refuse for their first-round pick at 26 this year, the Rams traded out completely. They moved back to 30 spots to pick number 46, 20 spots, in a deal with the Falcons that included Atlanta's 2026 first-round pick, and then they decided to select Oregon tight end Terrence Ferguson, which I loved. I went in detail on that pick a few videos ago, so if you missed that one, after you're done with this one, go back and watch that one, as that is a whole breakdown of the Rams' first two draft picks. And Sean McVay believes that they have big plans for Ferguson, but they also had their eye on another tight end going on to pick 26 there. And according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Rams were also targeting LSU tight end Mason Taylor. A source from the Rams told Fowler that the team preferred Ferguson to Taylor, and Taylor was selected by the Jets a few picks earlier. So it seems like either way, Ferguson was the pick at 46, and we have more details on that right now with Jeremy Fowler. The Rams traded out of the first round with two tight ends on their mind, Oregon's Terrence Ferguson and LSU's Mason Taylor. They would have been happy with either player, but one team source insists that Ferguson was top in that order, so he would have been taken with the pick even if Taylor had been there. Taylor happened to go 4 spots earlier. And this is really interesting that the Rams were eyeing these tight ends, potentially with a first-round pick as well, because tight end is not the main need for this team. The linebacker is. However, we know what the Rams did in 2021 to help win that Super Bowl by bringing in Odell Beckham Jr. back before Robert Woods got hurt, was that they just wanted to give as many weapons as possible to Matthew Stafford, which ended up helping them win the Super Bowl. So we'll see if this strategy works again. And make sure to like the video right now so that strategy can work and the Rams have a solid chance there to win the Super Bowl. And NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah as well had linked Mason to the Rams just before the draft, saying that he wouldn't sleep on Los Angeles taking the LSU tight end in the first round. And they had the opportunity to take either of them in the first round, but they obviously passed on him and opted with the trade for the Falcons, which again, I believe worked out very well for the Rams, as I made a whole video about what they could do with the Falcons draft pick in the 2026 draft. So if you missed that one as well, go back and watch that one after you finish watching this one here. Again, both Ferguson and Taylor are talented pass-catching tight ends, but it's Ferguson who tested as the best player at his position in the entire class at the Combine, and he's a superior athlete and was a prolific receiver, which is what Sean McVay really likes out of his tight ends. He holds the Oregon school record for most receptions and touchdowns by a tight end, 134 receptions and 16 touchdown catches right over there. And then here is the tight end depth chart that we are looking at. Tyler Higbee is really pegged in as the starter, which I agree. Obviously, Higbee missed a lot of time last year recovering from his ACL injury. He got hit by Kirby Joseph in the knee. Seems to be a bit of a theme there with Kirby Joseph. We do have Terrence Ferguson there as the second-string tight end, which I do agree. I think he has a higher ceiling even this year than a guy like Kobe Parkinson and Davis Allen. And then we have undrafted free agent, Anthony over there as we'll see if he ends up making the team as one of those veteran tight ends may need to get cut as a result of this draft pick, whether it's Davis Allen or, Colby Parkinson, or they just go with the kind of easier route and cutting the undrafted free agent who does have the most to prove. And I want you to leave in the comments below. Do you think it was smart for the Rams to prioritize tight end in this draft? As that seems to be very important to them. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments on this matter and the Jermaine Pratt matter as well. And that is it for this episode of Rams Digest. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching today's episode. Make sure to like this video right now and comment down below your thoughts on the Jermaine Pratt trade and the Rams draft strategy. And remember, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 4K by the end of the month. I've been your host, Joshua Finehirsh, and I'll see you for another episode of Rams Digest soon, and enjoy the rest of your day.